Chicago Fire officially undoes its best Severide story in years before it could even properly begin. Suddenly, Kelly Severide's Chicago Fire Season 14 story is less exciting after NBC officially undoes the character's best narrative in years. Throughout its over a decade on the air, Firehouse 51 has led the storytelling for the One Chicago franchise. Amid a lot of changes, however, Taylor Kinney remains at the center of its narrative. Despite being an ensemble series, Severide is arguably Chicago Fire's true lead. So many of his storylines are presented as the major plots that dictate the direction of the show. This has been especially true after fellow original characters like Chief Wallace Bowden and Matt Casey left the series. Coming into Chicago Fire Season 14, Severide is looking at the most exciting year ahead of him. This is not only because he and Stella Kidd are expecting their first child, but also because of other developments in his personal life. Sadly, however, one of those narratives is no longer happening after a shocking NBC news. Ahead of Chicago Fire Season 14's premiere, it has been revealed that Michael Bradway's Jack Damon is officially exiting the series. Despite being a fairly new addition to Firehouse 51, the character has so much narrative potential because of his personal ties to Severide. Damon is Benny Severide's secret son, making him the half-brother of Kinney's character. Damon's last big story in the first responder procedural was officially coming back as a regular member of Firehouse 51. Unlike Jake Lockett and Daniel Keary's respective departures as Sam Carver and Darren Ritter, which were announced before Chicago Fire Season 13 even wrapped, Bradway's departure is totally unexpected. Damon's last big story in the first responder procedural was officially coming back as a regular member of Firehouse 51. Now, however, that setup is already going nowhere. Besides the ridiculous back and forth for Benny's younger son, indicating that Chicago Fire never really figured out what to do with him, what's more frustrating is that it will never be able to tackle Damon and Severide's relationship. The NBC project barely gave any proper time to develop their dynamic. Every time things stabilized for them, something came up to disrupt their peace. Severide's looming parental journey with Stella is absolutely exciting. As One Chicago's premier couple, it's great that something good is heading their way after years of post-marriage struggles. However, this arc isn't entirely new. Chicago Fire has done a version of it in the past. Meanwhile, seeing brothers work side by side in the same firehouse is a novel concept. The Chicago Fire Season 13 finale didn't offer any kind of exit path for Damon. Based on reports, it doesn't seem like he's making another appearance in Season 14. His exit is already frustrating as it is, but the fact that NBC has to do it off-screen makes it a little worse. For over a decade, Kelly Severide has been the smoldering backbone of Chicago Fire, resilient, haunted, magnetic. His arcs often leaned on his flair for heroics, complex love life, and a natural gift for leadership. But every once in a while, the series flirted with something deeper. And this past season, fans thought they were finally getting it. Severide the teacher. Severide the legacy builder. But just as quickly as the story ignited, Chicago Fire tossed a bucket of cold water over it, leaving loyal viewers stunned and asking, why start something so promising only to abandon it before it could catch fire? It all began with an exciting development. After years of being a solo act in Firehouse 51 squad, Severide was offered an opportunity that felt like the next natural evolution in his career. Not a promotion, not an escape, but a passing of the torch. The Special Arson Training Program in Alabama was more than a temporary relocation. It was Severide stepping into a new identity. Instead of charging into flames, he'd now be studying the aftermath, understanding, analyzing, teaching others how to prevent the blaze before it began. It had the bones of a rich, emotionally rewarding story. A firefighter who had lost friends, nearly lost his own life, and fought like hell to protect his team was finally given a shot at legacy. There were possibilities for Severide to mentor younger investigators, develop new fire safety methods, and gain national recognition not for his jawline or daring rescues, but for his intellect and leadership. Fans were ready. This was Severide stepping out of his adrenaline-addicted shell. This was growth. But in true One Chicago fashion, that watching Severide evolve in Alabama with occasional check-ins and a powerful mid-season return, his off-screen time became a jumbled series of conflicting updates. One moment he was studying. The next he was called away for a special case with the ATF. Then silence. When he finally returned to 51, fans braced for an exploration of how the experience had changed him. But what they got was nothing. No insight. No personal reflection. No lasting change. Worse, the writers treated the entire arc like a footnote. Severide returned to 51 with the same swagger and vague declarations. I had to see this through. And there's still work to do here. Sure, those words sound noble. But without any weight behind them, they just rang hollow. The arson arc was dead on arrival. Any impact it could have had on Severide, on Firehouse 51, on the future of the CFD, was swiftly swept aside. The missed opportunity. Let's not forget what could have been. Severide mentoring a younger, hot-headed recruit who reminded him of himself. A crisis of conscience when he's asked to testify in a case where an arsonist is facing life imprisonment. A moment of regret when he sees the toll the job takes on his marriage to Stella, who's left holding things together at 51. These are the emotional stakes fans were craving. And Chicago Fire laid the groundwork for all of it, only to walk away like none of it mattered. Even his relationship with Stella felt the tremors. One of the most stable couples in the One Chicago universe, their bond has always been tested by Severide's need for escape. But this time, he wasn't running. He was stepping up. Stella even supported it. That added emotional layer gave fans hope that the writers were taking their time to nurture something long-term. But with his abrupt return, there was no reckoning, no couples therapy, no soul-searching. Just a quick re-entry into Firehouse 51 like nothing had changed. Why did the writers backtrack? It's the question burning in every fan's mind. Was it scheduling conflicts? Perhaps Taylor Kinney's unexpected leave made the writers abandon ship on the arson training idea. Maybe ratings pressure prompted a rushed return to the classic format. Or maybe, and this is the hardest pill to swallow, the show doesn't actually know what to do with Severide anymore unless he's charging into danger. The irony. The arson investigation arc could have extended the life of Chicago Fire itself. As a procedural drama, longevity lies in growth, not repetition. Severide growing into a new role would have opened up storytelling beyond the firehouse, deepened the show's connection to real-world fire prevention work, and provided a meaningful send-off arc when the time came for Kinney to eventually bow out. But instead, Chicago Fire continues to dance with the past. It's safer, sure. Viewers know what they're getting. But it's not satisfying. Not when we've seen hints of brilliance, like Severide's internal tug-of-war between action and purpose. Not when Kinney is capable of so much more than brooding glances and last-minute rescues. What now for Severide? Where do we go from here? It's hard to say. The arson thread appears to have been severed completely. No more mentions. No lessons learned. He's back in Squad 3, cracking one-liners with crews, dodging death weekly. And while that's comforting in a nostalgic sense, it's not compelling television. If Chicago Fire wants to undo the damage, there's still time. They can revisit Alabama. Bring in a former colleague or student from the program who needs Severide's help. Have him torn between two fires, one literal, one emotional. Let Severide reflect. Let him evolve. Because the worst thing this show can do to one of its best characters is keep him frozen in time.